Welcome everyone. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the next hour to learn. I am going to talk about what it means to really prepare for media, whether it's inquiries or interviews. And as Danya mentioned, my name is Lawson-Zilai. I'm founder and principal of Zeal Communications. And I named my consultancy because I've been told I do things with a lot of zeal. All of my relationships, transactions are done with zeal and energy. So, some background about me. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most impactful organizations in our country, the Children's Defense Fund, Goodwill Industries International, and the National Head Start Association. I understand what the media needs from both sides. I sit on advisory boards for iHeart and for NBC here in DC. I have been on the receiving side of media where I've done interviews and I'm normally in the background. So I understand what reporters want and how to be succinct. And then I hope you connect with me on LinkedIn or even share some learnings from today. I welcome you to follow me and connect. I'm always posting about different advice and observations, and so hopefully you can learn from that. So what we'll talk about today, we want to sharpen your skills. We want you to own your voice and your message. We want you to be able to communicate your message with clarity, understand the media landscape, which has changed so much in the 2 decades plus that I've dealt with media, learn practical interview techniques, handle kind of the gotcha questions, as I like to call them, the tough questions, how to stay on message. And then surprise, we're going to be practicing in real time. So get ready for that because we might call on you to do that. So first things first, there is power to PR and the media. And it is so important and critical that you talk to reporters directly. And it's important both as individuals and organizations to directly communicate your message, perspective, and expertise to a large or niche audience. It helps shape public opinion, it raises awareness about important issues, it builds credibility, it influences policy decisions, and it provides context to key audiences through news outlets. So it's important that if you're not telling your story, someone else will. So it's really important that you do talk to media, that you get it right, and that you are a trusted resource. So when you're speaking to the media, it's really important to have a sense of knowing the different outlets out there. There's radio, there's TV, there's print, there's podcasts. There's even independent journalists now that are credible organizations. And then there's examples of trade outlets, such as the Chronicle of Higher Education would be a trade outlet. So depending on your story, you want to pick the right media outlet. If you are the person reaching out to media proactively in your organization, you want to be sure that you're selecting the right type of outlet. If you have a policymaker coming to your program, for example, that's definitely when you want a TV outlet to be there. So before any interview, any pitch, any statement, you want to ask yourself the questions here. Who are you trying to reach? What outlets do people trust? What kind of story is the journalist looking for? And how can you message their story? And how can you add value as a source, not just as a spokesperson? So these really shape what you say, how you say it, and where you say it. And there are two types of media inquiries. There's proactive and reactive. So proactive is when you reach out to the media to proactively pitch your story. It's Foster Care Awareness Month this month. We celebrated our 61st anniversary yesterday. So it's a great time to proactively reach out to the media. And this also guarantees that you have control of the narrative that you can shape positive coverage. Reactive is a lot of what we experienced last year and much of this year as well. It's when the media comes to you. It's often in response to a news event, a crisis, something that they saw from the administration or local legislation. So it's when it's directly affecting your organization and requiring you to address the situation as it unfolds. It's important when you have a reactive interview that you're thinking about if it's going to think about it on a case by case basis. So think about um, responding, asking the right questions, who else is being interviewed. Will it make a difference for you? And you don't have to respond right away. And this is something that I always counsel folks on is you can ask the deadline. If a TV camera comes to your organization, you can say, I'm not ready at this point, but I can get back to you in an hour. So those are some other things that I just wanted to emphasize and go over. And then, of course, there's the media prep. And everything that we cover here is practical and immediately usable. So you can go to the next slide. Uh, so for media prep, we want to be sure that you're ready, that you're not scrambling, that you're not improvising, that you have practice, that you know your message, and that you are reciting your messages with confidence and with clarity. So with that, practice makes perfect, and everybody needs practice, no matter if you've been media trained multiple times or you are just doing this for the first time. And I like to joke, my husband's an accountant, and so he doesn't really understand my world. He doesn't necessarily understand the world of Head Start. I like to practice with him in terms of speeches, in terms of interviews, because he'll hear things a certain way or he'll poke holes or question things. And so you should try to do that. Try to practice in front of audiences that may not know and understand Head Start. So before you speak or do an interview, you want to define your target audience. You want to think about the selective, specific group of people that will likely be watching, be listening, or reading the interview. And you want to tailor the interview to resonate with their interests, with their concerns, their level of understanding, making your message more impactful and relevant. Additionally, you also have the potential to reach a parent, a guardian, foster parent that might be thinking about Head Start and they'll enroll their child as a result. So be thinking about that as you're speaking to reporters and tailoring your messages accordingly. You also want to understand reporters, and unfortunately, they're not all experts. A lot of them are younger, they're college graduates, they're entering this workforce for the first time. You want to be sure that you're making them a much more effective source. So they're overwhelmed. They're always on deadline. The deadlines are not realistic. They probably don't know a lot about Head Start, so don't hesitate to educate them. If you're making an assumption that, oh, they know this, I shouldn't say it, don't do that. Come in with education and then also think about what will land with them. Make their job easier, give them clarity, give them a strong quote, refer them to partners and other stakeholders in the space that could add to the story, and give them a story that they'll really care about. Give them the human interest story of someone that had a successful time at Head Start so that you're visually painting the picture for them. There are different types of formats for media, as I mentioned, and it's really important to know that and then know the reporter's desired output. So with TV and radio, it's short sound bites. With TV, you want clear visuals. So be thinking about if you have a collection of photos of your programs and mission and action, have those at the ready. Send those to the reporter after the fact. For TV and radio, energy really matters. For TV, obviously you're visual, and so people are seeing you on camera. And then radio, it's the inflection of your voice. So you want to be sure that you're, in some ways, overemphasizing your energy so that comes across. For print and online, the focus is on longer quotes and background details, so you have the opportunity to do that. Live interviews, unfortunately, there's no do-overs. You have to stay calm under pressure and live in the moment and be prepared to do that. And then recorded, you can be polished, but you can also say, you know what, can we redo that? I didn't necessarily get that right the first time. But know that anything can air. So you want to be prepared for those types of formats. And I will be sending out some additional resources that will help you prepare for that. So it's important to control the narrative and be the messenger. And the way to do that is to know the media do's and don'ts. So you want to, you can go to the next slide, be friendly with reporters. You want to build genuine relationships over time, but remember that they are not your friend in the professional sense. They have their own agenda. Their job is to get the story. We were just dealing with a national news reporter this week who was writing a lot of Head Start associations and programs and saying, oh, I'm just trying to find out about X. And so, obviously she's digging and we can be friendly and give her sources, but at the end of the day, they're not your best friend. So know your materials inside and out. Prepare your sound bites, really catch phrases. At Goodwill, we said we serve a person every 30 seconds of every business day. So that was really catchy, that stuck. Think about different types of concrete examples or sound bites that you could use. Translate technical terms into plain language. We have a lot of acronyms and jargon in the early childhood space. I always say that, but you want to be mindful of that. You want to put things in really plain language so people understand that. You want to focus on your body language and your posture that communicates confidence. And then always answer in full sentences because things may be cut. So, and I mean in terms of the interview itself. So if a reporter says, Lauren, tell me about the Head Start programs for foster care, you answer, well, Head Start programs provide foster care children with X. You don't want to answer yes or no. You want to be sure that you're answering in full sentences. And then always provide contact information for your PR lead. I know all of you don't necessarily have that. You have small teams, but whoever is handling the logistics of the interview, you want to have one dedicated point person who can answer all of the follow-up questions, and all of that is going to one place. So now in terms of the dotes, and I always say this to Ed, I don't believe in off the record. Someone might say, this is off the record. You can talk and I won't share it. There's really no such thing. Everything you say to a reporter will probably end up in print. You also don't want to say no comment. That's not a good look because it also implies guilt. It looks as though you're hiding something. So you want to reframe that. You also don't want to guess or make something up. And it's okay to say to a reporter, I'm not sure, but let me get back to you, or I'm not the expert here. So you can offer to follow up. And as long as you do that and make the commitment to do so, you'll be in their favor. Don't speculate, as I mentioned. Don't demand that certain quotes will be used. Don't ask to see the article before it runs. That's not something that they share unless it's a paid piece or you have a certain relationship with a reporter. They're not going to send that to you. You don't have the ability to proof it or change it. So know that you can control exactly what quotes get used, but you can't see that beforehand. Don't let emotions overtake your message, even if they're saying things that are not true or accurate. You want to correct that in real time, but you don't want to appear flustered or defensive in any way. And like I said, avoid using jargon, buzzwords, acronyms. They really create distance between you and the audience. So there are four essential techniques for controlling an interview, and you often hear these in media training. One is blocking. So that's politely steering the conversation back to your prepared messages when it drifts from what you're trying to talk about. So it means acknowledging the question and then shifting to what you want to say. It's a technique where a spokesperson strategically avoids answering the question directly by using phrases or statements to redirect it to a more favorable topic. So essentially blocking the interviewer from getting the answer that they want. And bridging is a follow-up to that. So you can say, Head Start is facing funding challenges right now, but what I want to talk about is Foster Care Awareness Month and the 5 parents that are serving on our board. So you're acknowledging the question and then you're bridging to the topic at hand. Flagging is a verbal cue that signals importance. It tells the interviewer and the audience to pay attention to what comes next. And if you look at some interviews and speeches from President Obama, he was very good at doing flagging. Pivoting is shifting to a message you do want to deliver. So it means deliberately shifting to that message. And it's really important that you practice all of these, that they become really instinctive to you, that you repeat them. And all of these are a good way to practice with avoiding some of the don'ts that I went over, like the no comment and some of the other things. So these are some quick examples of each technique in action, in addition to a few of the examples that I was just saying. Blocking, saying that's a valid concern, and it highlights exactly what we're focused on. So you can use this to redirect without being dismissive. Bridging, an example of that is the most important thing to remember is X. So you're using this to transition to your key message. Flagging is when you say, what we really want to make clear is so and so. So you're using that to signal what is really important. And then pivoting, I can't speculate on that, but what I confirm is X. So you're using this to move away from territory that you cannot or should not address. You want to memorize these phrases. They really are your lifeline for difficult and challenging moments. So key messages, these are the foundation of everything. And if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me talk about some of the key messaging that I've worked on previously with Miss Lansky or with other groups. And I really worked last year to define our key messages. Key messages are so important because they're what you want the audience to remember after every interview, every public appearance, even every conversation. So if you're at your children's softball game or you're seeing someone at a Kiwanis or a Rotary meeting, those are opportunities to tell your key messages. So we're going to talk about how you can develop, deliver, and enhance those messages. So this is the high level messaging framework that I came up with. And we did this after doing message testing from both sides of the aisle. And what really resonated with people was the launch pad because that showed the trajectory of Head Start. And I always hear from parents, I was speaking to a foster parent today that said Head Start really stands out in terms of the emotional regulation, in terms of the reading comprehension and the math skills. Children are more advanced when they go to Head Start, and that means that is setting them up for success later in life. And then you want to focus on the mission statement. We prepare children to succeed in school and in life and provide affordable childcare so parents can focus on their education and careers. So you're not saying we're providing childcare to people with low incomes. You're saying it's affordable childcare. And then the proof point, we know since 1965, Head Start has served more than 40 million children, providing school readiness, health services, wraparound supports, family stability. So these three elements, you have the headline, you have the mission, and the legacy proof point should be in all of your vocabulary. And then this is the core messaging framework. It's grounded in research. I've said this stat, there's others out there. This comes from Heckman. But research really helps you prevent from someone poking holes in the effectiveness of Head Start. So you're saying it's proven, it's child-centered investment in the future of the United States. And then you can extend it to research shows here are the lasting benefits, not only for children of today, but for future generations and ultimately American taxpayers. And that's something else that you really want to get across in terms of here is how it's benefiting society or my local community. These are future workers, future contributors. So if anyone is questioning the value of Head Start, these are your answers to those questions. And then to get really specific, you want to focus on proof points. So children who attend Head Start are more likely to graduate, secure stable employment, contribute to the workforce, as I mentioned. Families gain greater stability, fewer barriers to workforce participation. They always have a guide with them. I hear from parents, Head Start has someone that is helping me navigate both how I parent, both how I work with teachers. Head Start reduces the immediate cost for additional school support services like speech and hearing therapy. Head Start's really your advocate. And then the benefits have a ripple effect to families, to communities, and to taxpayers. So you want to use this when you are speaking with policymakers, with funders, and with media because they want not just evidence, but inspiration. This is a technique that I like to use, and I call it the three C's. And I think it really ties in to Head Start. So you have children and families, communities, and our country. And that signifies what Head Start is. So this can help you quickly frame the breadth of impact. Head Start supports kids inside and outside the classroom. It builds the academic and developmental milestones and foundations that children need for school. And with more than 40 million children served, which is a really impactful number, it's one of the most effective early childhood programs in the nation. So again, three C's, children, communities, and country. And now we're going to talk about some of the general tools, techniques, and tips that I use. So these are frameworks that will make every interview, every press briefing, every public appearance more effective. And they're not complicated. They're simple and they're proven and powerful when used correctly and also when practiced consistently. So there's the rule of three, and this is one of the most important communication principles that you can apply. So you want to develop your three short strategic messages that define your organization and its goals. And we know that three really works. People remember three. There's the three little pigs. It's just how our human brain easily retains information. So, three messages delivered consistently across every interview and every appearance will build recognition and credibility over time. So, you don't want to over communicate, you don't want to communicate everything. Just communicate these three messages and communicate them well. So this is in practice what this looks like. So message one focuses on school readiness and life preparation. Message two focuses on the comprehensive whole child approach, which a lot of people don't realize. It's the medical services, the health and nutrition, the emotional development, the parent engagement in terms of parents being on boards. People know Head Start for the learning, but they don't understand this whole 360 approach. And then message three anchors to our 61-year legacy. And you can say for more than 60 years, this shows the breadth and depth of our program and how we're so effective and how we give every child a chance to thrive. So notice that each message is short, it stands alone, and it connects emotionally as well as factually. So these are the kinds of messages that land and stick. And then another trick is the ABC message framework. So this is a simple structure for answering any interview question effectively. You A, answer the question briefly, directly, and concisely without rambling. B, bridge to your message. Use a transition phrase like, what's most important here is, or what this really comes down to. And then C, communicate your key point. So land on one of your prepared key messages. This framework will help keep you on track no matter what the question is. And I encourage you to practice this until it becomes automatic for you. And again, this is the ABC framework in action. So the answer, Head Start has been a cornerstone of early childhood education for more than 6 decades. The bridge is with ongoing needs for access and early intervention, programs like ours are more relevant than ever. And then you're communicating, Head Start is making a critical impact in our community. And you can provide specific examples, data points, but you notice the structure here. You have the brief answer, you have the clear bridge, and then you have the strong key message with the local proof point. So again, you want to practice your own version of this with your organization's specific data or validated points. The other thing that I wanted to go over is the power of the pause. And this is one of the most underused and most powerful tools in media training. And we're all guilty of it. The reporter likes to remain quiet and have almost a stoic face or expression. And you, as the interviewee, tend to just keep talking. And you don't want to do that. You want to leave room for questions so that you can talk about different topics. You don't want to continue talking after you've made your point. You want to use single, clear sentences. And reporters, as I mentioned, they do this, they're doing this on purpose. They're doing this deliberately because they're hoping that you might say something that is unplanned or you might go off the record or off message. So you don't have to fill the silence, make your point, stop, let the pause be it. The discipline is to stop talking, and that's one of the most important habits that you can develop as a communicator and as an interviewee. So now here comes the fun part. We're going to do the practice session. Everything we have covered today, the messages, the frameworks, the techniques only becomes useful when you have actually practiced using them, saying them out loud. A little bit of pressure always helps with us. So we're going to do this here. There are no wrong answers. The goal is to get comfortable speaking about Head Start clearly and confidently in your own voice and in real time. So before we do that, I always like to start with a Mad Lib. I hope all of you remember Mad Libs. And this is kind of a fill in the blank Mad Lib. So at insert organization name, we believe. So you're talking about a deeply held value. Every day we verb object for who are your constituents, who are your stakeholders, who are the people that you're serving. Because problem statement or opportunity, so that's the foundation. That's your elevator speech pitch. And it forces you to get specific about your mission, about your audience, and your why. So I want you to take some time. We'll give it about a minute and fill this in. And so, as I said here, we're going to voluntold people, but I want you to share this, and it would be great to have a few examples. This is what I typically time this for 60 seconds because media interviews are so rapid and happen quickly. And so it's really important to time yourself so that you are being succinct and brief in your answers. So this is our second practice round. I want you to think about what we covered today, your key messages, the rule of three, the ABC framework. Write down what is Head Start. Lead with your strongest message. Be specific, be clear, and we'll give you another minute. So we're going to do our next lightning round of 50 seconds. And I want you to think about who Head Start serves. And so who's the target audience? Um, who's going to ask or hear this question? And be thinking about this for a policymaker, a parent. You want to shape your answer accordingly. You can use some of the messaging that I just used, but you want to bring in the families, the data, and the human story. And I have this in 60, 50, 40-second increments because this is going to help you practice so that you have your message really tailored and sharp over time. Our fourth round, how is Head Start different from other preschool programs? So I'll give you 40 seconds to answer this. Focus on what makes Head Start unique. You all know this. It's the comprehensive model, the health and family services, the more than 60 years, the research, what I've heard in discussions with foster parents about STEM skills, uh, learnings, how children that are graduating from Head Start have higher reading comprehension. So be proud, be specific. We have two more. Why is Head Start important in today's world? So think about, again, there's a lot of misinformation about Head Start. It's a legacy brand. You're going to have 30 seconds, but why is it so crucial and important in this landscape and especially now? All right, we're going to go to our final round, and this is the one that you should really be thinking about. And when you have a media interview, and some of you have, what they'll often say at the end is, "Do you have anything else to add?" And that's when you add something. You don't say, "Oh no, I'm good, I'm okay." That's really the most important soundbite. That's often the soundbite that they will use. So this is where you want to focus 20 seconds. What's your call to action? Know it off the top of your head. Do you want them to donate? Do you want parents to sign up and enroll? Do you want them to spread the word? Do you want them to volunteer? Do you want them to advocate, sign a petition, work with elected officials? So have this clear, confident, specific ask at the ready at all times. So I know we're close to time. I did want to leave you with four final tips to carry with you. And those are: prepare, do not memorize, don't sound like a robot, sound genuine, stay calm and focused. Even if you may appear that way publicly and you're shaking or feeling nervous, as long as you appear calm, that's the key thing. Remember your why. We're all here because we believe in the Head Start mission. We have a passion for it. That's your most powerful asset. And then confidence is contagious. When you believe in what you're saying, the audience will too. I also want to leave you with dress, and I'll send this out in a handout. But there are certain things, whether it's TV or radio, if you're doing a virtual TV interview, don't use a virtual background like Danya, because that will, sorry to pick on you, but that won't appear well on TV. So you want to use a plain background. You want to wear patterns that are not busy, that are plain and more of a navy or black. So what Juan has on is perfect. You want to be conscious of your background. And then as a woman, do your makeup twice. I know, I'm looking at that. Do your makeup twice. So that might seem like a lot, but on camera, it appears really well. So I'll send out those tips. I know we're at 2 o'clock my time, but I am happy to stay on, answer questions.